What is up, guys? I'm the Senator, and today I'm coming at you with another operator tier list video. Now, about 2 months ago, I made an operator tier list video where I took the operators of Rainbow Six Siege and put them into their respective tiers as you would with any tier list video. And so you may be thinking, why am I making another one 2 months later? Well, reason number one being that many operators have changed quite significantly since Operation Void Edge. We're currently in Still Wave, so I feel like I should revisit it and put them into their new tiers because many have changed quite a bit. And not only have the operators changed, but my opinions on many of these operators have changed quite a bit since Operation Void Edge. And reason number two being that when looking at that video I made 2 months ago, if I'm being completely honest with myself and with you guys, that video was very lazy on my part. I can tell that it was rushed. I didn't really think it through. I put operators like Wamai in like a C tier, and just looking back on it, it was not one of my best works, and I'm really disappointed in myself for rushing through a video and just throwing it out there without really thinking about it. So hopefully I'm able to right that wrong with this video and put operators where they really belong instead of me just rushing through and trying to put an operator out. So I've spent more time on this video than I did on that last video, so hopefully it shows. But anyways, before I dive too deep in this video, make sure to hit the like button because that helps me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm almost to the 20,000 subscriber mark, and I can't believe I've made it this far this quickly, and if you guys were to help push me over that edge, I'd be very grateful. But enough of that, let's just get into this video. Okay, so to start things off, I'm going to go ahead and get the worst operators out of the way because you can only go up from there. So we're going to take Warden, we got to put him in D tier. We're going to take Tachanka. Next is Glaz. Let's just go ahead and look at the best because, again, they're the best, no one's better than them. So Thatcher, obviously the best, probably the best attacker. Thermite, he's got to stay with his buddy Thatcher. Ace, one of the best operators ever added to the game. You can argue whether or not he's the best hard breacher, but overall, the amount of versatility that comes with Ace is insane, without a doubt. A prime example of an S tier operator. Sledge is an S tier operator. He has soft destruction. He has an amazing primary. He has the best secondary in the game. He comes with frag grenades, so he fits the criteria of being an amazing operator, in my opinion. Mira, without a doubt, is an S tier operator. She is one of the strongest defenders. I'm not going to say she's the best defender, but she is a very, very strong defender. Next, we got Mute. Mute, in my opinion, is the best defender because of the versatility that comes with him. He denies information. He denies hard breachers. He's able to set up sight with the Mossberg. He's able to have the SMG-11, which again is the best secondary in the game. Overall, I think Mute is the best defender in this game because of the amount of versatility that comes with him. Let's look at Jackal, one of the most banned attackers for a reason. Insanely strong. He's got a shotgun secondary, one of the best primaries in the game. I believe it's maybe the second or third best primary overall. He has one of the best SMGs in the game, also as an option if you want to run that. Again, shotgun secondary, has smoke grenades. Echo, also an example of an S tier operator. He's one of the most banned for a reason. Valkyrie, S tier operator, no doubt. The only downside with her is maybe the MPX. Ashe, S tier operator. She's fast. She has the R4C. She has breaching rounds. She can deal with that utility. Overall, I think if you were to give someone the option to only use one attacker for the rest of their life, they would probably pick Ashe. Also, I need to remind you guys to stay until the end of the video because I will be doing a revision. I'll look back over it and make sure the operator's in the right place before I make my final decision. So if you're seeing an operator that's out of place, hold your breath. It may change towards the end. As for Jaeger, we're obviously going to put him in S tier. He has a 90% pick rate for obvious reasons, one of the best operators in the game. And I'm also going to put Wamai up there next to him. Now, in the first video, I said something along the lines of why would I want to pick Wamai when I could just play Jaeger? And if I'm being honest with you guys, I'd only played Wamai for maybe, honestly, just a few matches. I had like very little experience with Wamai. I was talking out my butt. But after spending a lot of time with Wamai, I will say that he is just as good, if not better, in a lot of uses than Jaeger. They just cater to two different playstyles. Jaeger's more of a set it and forget it, who's a proactive way to stop projectiles, whereas Wamai is more of a reactive way where he can, throughout the round, throw the magnets wherever they need to be instead of guessing in the prep phase where the attackers are going to be pushing from. And that's something that I love about Wamai. His ability also protects, his primary gadget also protects his secondary gadget, which is amazing considering that he has the deployable shield, which is the strongest defender gadget. And overall, just Wamai is an amazing operator that on release was very underappreciated, and just now we're starting to see how great he really is. Next we got Maestro, obviously S tier operator, and it looks as though I'm just filling this out. It looks like most of the operators are going to be in S tier, but honestly I would rather have an operator be too high than be too low. And if I'm being honest with you guys, I see no problem with having these specific operators in S tier. I think most of you can agree these operators are already S tier operators. But you know what, let's go ahead and fill out some of the middle areas before we finish this up. Looking at Vigil, Vigil in my mind is an A tier operator. He would be an S tier operator, but the thing is about Vigil is his utility, his ability, whatever, it only helps him, doesn't help the rest of his team. And I kind of see that as it's not really a problem, but that limits him from what I consider being an S tier operator, because it only helps him in his realm, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if I'm going to put an operator in S tier, he has to provide more utility to the team, if that makes sense. Another A tier operator in my mind that may ruffle some feathers is Twitch, and I'll explain why. And it's not because of the F2 nerf. I think if the F2 was still in its position as it was a year ago, I still think she's an A tier operator, and the reason being is because how easy it is to counter her. A mute Jeremy, which a mute is brought most of the time, I'd say maybe 40% of the time. I don't have the chart in front of me, but I'd guess maybe around 40% of the time he is brought, or at least Mozzie, either of those two are being brought. And the fact that it is very, very risky and difficult to get that drone into sight and take care of the bandit batteries or Kaid claws, any gadget, without getting shot. And even though she has two of them, it's a huge risk. And whenever you throw your drones in there, not only are you risking the drone as a way to get rid of utility, but as a way to actually drone out. And you can look at a Thatcher who can do the same, pretty much the same job without being in sight, without risking his drones or anything like that. And so I honestly see her as an A tier operator. Buck is also an example of an A tier operator. And if he still had his frag grenades, he would be an S tier operator. And I think he is the best when it comes to vertical play. He's better than Sledge when it comes to vertical play. But Sledge has the ability to take out Evil Eyes or castle barricades with his hammer, as well as his frag grenades. And I see that extra utility as better. So while he's better when it comes to vertical play, overall Sledge is better, so that's why I think he belongs in the A tier. Okay guys, so for whatever reason my system just crashed, and so if something looks different, that's the reason why. But moving forward, I'm gonna try to move a little faster because I've spent way too much time and I'm only like a quarter of the way through these operators. So let's just get through this. IQ, without a doubt, is an S tier operator. Amazing gadget. She has the G8, which many consider the best gun in the game at the moment, which I can kind of agree with. So she's obviously an S tier operator, especially when you have operators like Echo and Valkyrie in play. So I'm okay with that. Callie is without a doubt an A tier operator. Last season I would have put her in B tier, but now she has the SPS MG9, which I know statistically the C75 auto is a better gun, but I would rather have a gun that's slightly worse and has a reflex sight than have to deal with those awful C75 auto iron sights. Clash is a B tier operator. I think it's fair for her. We're starting to see some play of her more in the pro leagues. I've been playing more with her, and I'm starting to like her a whole lot more. The only reason she's in B tier is because she's not an operator that you're going to get very many kills with, and she's only effective if you have a team that will communicate with you and help you. If not, you're screwed. So she can be difficult to play sometimes, but you just have to have a team with you that's going to work with you. So B tier is okay. Castle, also a B tier operator. And I'm going to go ahead and lump in Goyo with him for similar reasons. Goyo obviously has a better gun, but they both do the same thing. They're just there to waste utility. Obviously, Goyo is more hazardous in the way that he can, block entryways for about 10 seconds. But overall, they're the same operator. They just go by different ways of blocking lines of sight and wasting utility. Or at least that's the way I see them. Looking at Amaru, obviously, it's not the best gadget, but being as though that she has one of the best guns in the game, the G8 with that angle grip, and she can run the SMG-11 as a secondary, and she's gotten that buff, I see no problem putting her in B tier. Dokkaebi, B tier operator. She's like great, but not to the point where she's completely overpowered and broken. I like her where she's at. Rook is, I put him in A. He could go to S, but I think A is pretty fair for him. Capital is also an A tier operator for the same reason that Buck is. While he's great at his job in blocking lines of like blocking entryways similar to Goyo, but he's like Goyo on offense. He can block those, he can get the smoke and plant, but he cannot clear utility. And so for me, just the way I'm looking at it, I think you need to be able to clear some utility to be an S tier operator. That's just my opinion. You may have a different one. That's fine. But looking at the current meta, you need some utility clearing capabilities. Looking at Bandit in my eyes is an S tier operator. He can Bandit trick. He has the MP7. He has a Nitro Cell. He's a 3-speed. He overall very great defender. I see the C tier is kind of empty. Let's go ahead and put Fuse in there. Even with the extra cluster charge, he's still way too situational for me to put him any higher. Yes, he can clear utility, but again, he's only really effective on that front if he's able to go above sight. Now, this is probably going to be the hottest take of this entire list. Hibana, I'm putting her in A, and I'll explain why. It's because she is only really great for when it comes to getting hatches. That's about it. If you're attacking basement on bank or consulate or on clubhouse, that's like the only scenarios where I would prefer a Hibana over a Thermite or an Ace. Can she open walls? Of course she can open walls, but she's more focused on hatches, and there's only like a few like sites where getting open the hatches is more significant than getting open a wall. And so for that reason, I'm putting her in the A. Also, she's very limited with her top 89, 21 round mag, not the best rifle in the game. So even on her fragging potential, it's not the best. The only upside to her over these two is that she is a 3-speed. Sophia, S tier. She's pretty much Ashe, but just slightly slower and has the ability to stand up, and she can stun her enemies, which is amazing. Smoke, obviously S tier. I think in Pro League, he is the most picked defender. He's my favorite defender. If you watch this channel for long enough, you know that he is my favorite defender to play. Caveira, C tier operator. Reason she's a C tier operator is because her entire ability can be countered by droning out or spawning with a buddy. You do either of those two things or both of those things, you will never get interrogated, or else you're just oblivious. In that point, you deserve to get interrogated. So I don't have a problem with putting her in C. Blackbeard, he's a B. He's okay. Still, if you play him, you are a dick. You can win gunfights with him, but that's about it. He's kind of like the Doc of the attacking team. He's just there to get kills and not really help his team. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and put Doc in the B tier. He honestly doesn't provide much utility to the team. If he's dead, then he's useless, doesn't help you at all. There are some instances where he can stem you and revive you or whatever, but those are rare. I would much rather have an operator that wastes utility, or an operator like, maybe a Maestro or a Valk that can at least give information. Not the greatest fan of Doc. He's fun to play, I will give you that. But when looking at the whole scheme of things and how Siege is supposed to be played, Doc isn't the best. He's in the middle of the road. Ella, A tier. Finka, C. I'm putting Finka online in C. I see them basically as the same operator. They have a universal ability, but it's really not that great. It does have potential to be used in a fantastic way, wherever there's 20 seconds left, you're pushing into sight, you have line turn on this thing. That in those instances it can be great, but just overall, there's more operators that I would rather have. Frost, C tier. At this point, if there's a Frost on the board, you're going to be pre-firing every window anyway, and you could say that's strong because people are going to be looking down instead of looking up, which is true, but overall, Frost mats are easy to deal with. They're not really a problem. Capcan is a B tier operator, and you could be saying, why is Frost in C and he's in B? Well, because he has 5 traps, and usually when it comes down to the last 20 seconds of the game, people will run into those traps. They'll forget. It's easier to see a Frost mat jumping through a window than it is to see a Capcan trap when you're running through. So I think, when looking at trap operators, he is one of the best. Melusi, S tier operator. We've seen how strong she is. whenever she gets nerfed down to 2 Banshees, which she eventually will, she will drop down in the list. But right now, having 3 Banshees soaking up that much utility and slowing you down, obviously she's an S tier operator. You've seen the wind deltas, I've seen the wind deltas. She is insanely strong. She will be getting nerfed pretty soon. I can pretty much guarantee that. Looking at Ying, Ying is either B or C. I'm gonna go ahead and put her in B just because she has Candelas and smokes. But in the whole scheme of things, it doesn't really matter what they do to her. She's a risk to bring because, again, we live in this utility meta. She cannot clear utility. So I see her similar to, like, you know, a Blackbeard or a Dokkaebi in that sense. She can be very, very strong, but she's a risk to bring. When looking at Maverick, I find myself in the same position as I did with Hibana, but I'm going to go ahead and put him in S tier for the reason that he doesn't have a counter, he has frag grenades, and while it does take him some time to get a wall open or get a hatch open, nothing will stop him from getting that thing open other than time. It takes time, but he will get it open if you have a skilled Maverick player. Maverick has one of the highest skill gaps, but he can get it done. Looking at Pulse, Pulse is one of the strongest defenders and probably the most difficult defender to play, but I'm going to put him in A tier because of how vulnerable he is whenever he uses his ability, and because he has the UMP-45, which is the worst SMG in the... or I say the worst, the M12 is worse, but still it's one of the worst SMGs in the game. Strong A, takes a lot of skill to use him, but again, he's very, very vulnerable. Now when looking at Mozzie, I'm going to put Mozzie in the A tier. If he still has Super Shorty, he would be in the S tier, but he doesn't, so he's going into the A tier. But nonetheless, having an operator that can passively capture drones, even if he's not going to use them for the purpose of getting information off them, just taking away the attacker's information passively is so strong. Looking at Kaid, I'm going to put Kaid in the A tier, and the reason I'm putting him in the A tier is because he is an operator that you only play whenever you need him, and you only need him whenever there's a hatch above sight. Other than that, you don't really need to bring a Kaid, and nobody really wants to bring a Kaid because his options are the AUG, which is not the greatest submachine gun, very slow firing gun, and the TCSG-12, which has received a huge nerf. Looking at Legion, Legion is still an A tier operator, still gives off sound cues, still has one of the best SMGs in the game, has impacts, has a bulletproof camera, great operator still. As for Nomad, she is going to go in the A tier, and she's one of my favorite operators. I love her ability. She's the best operator when it comes to protecting flanks, but overall, seeing as though she doesn't have a very strong kit, she can't deal with the defender utility, I think A is fair for her, all things considered. Looking at Alibi, Alibi is probably my favorite roamer, but I understand that she can be very situational, and there are many maps where, you know, she can be amazing and maps where she can't be that great. Looking at maybe Outback, for example, she's amazing on Outback, but when looking at Consulate, she kind of struggles. So being as though she's very situational depending on the site and the map, I think that all things considered, she's a B operator. Looking at Oryx, I consider Oryx to be a C. I'm going to put him in high C. He could easily be a low B, but I'm putting him in high C. He's not the best. Like, I like the idea of an operator that can go through hatches, but with that being said, he has the MP5 without an ACOG. Even with the angled grip, it's still one of the worst guns in the game. Sure, it's great on Doc and Rook because they have an ACOG, but without it, on a roamer, he's just not that great. And he provides no utility to the team other than being able to create a rotate hole, which, let's be honest, you should have a mute or a smoke doing that already. And if you don't have a mute or a smoke, why are you picking Oryx? Monty, I don't play much of him, but you know, I see him being a very useful operator. He's sort of like Clash in the sense that he's only as useful as his teammates allow him to be. If you're communicating with your teammates, he can be a great operator, but being as though he can't clear out utility, has no fragging potential, I'm going to put him right next to Clash in B. As for the rest of these, honestly, I'm going to put the rest of them in A. Yana, great operator. She's great for people who like to solo queue, and she's great for people who like to be in a stack because she has the ability to go in and have your buddy getting the refrag. That's an amazing attribute. I love her, especially as someone who likes to play the support operator. I love droning. If you play with me, you know that my favorite part of the game isn't going in and getting kills. It's droning my buddies in and letting them know and getting the kills off of that. I find that really, really fun. So I think she's a great operator that has a lot of potential. When looking at Nook, her only big downside is the fact that she doesn't have an ACOG and she's the only attacker that's limited to an SMG. But I think that's okay considering that she is so quiet. You never see her coming. Whenever I die to a Nook, it's because I never saw her coming. So that's an amazing attribute. She isn't the best, but I like her. Some others may not think she's great. I say spend more time with Nook. You'll enjoy her a lot more. And as for Gridlock, I'm putting her an A for pretty much the same reason as Nomad. And even though I know Nomad is better than her, she is a tank that is great for watching flanks, and she can be very oppressive in the late game when you're going for a plant. You can do the smoking plant. She has smoke grenades, and the sound of her tracks covers up the sound of the plant going down, as well as the fact that she's just now gotten a buff that increases her track deployment. So she's an amazing operator. Her only downside being that she is a thick chick, but some could see that as a plus considering that she is the support operator. So she's going to be, gaining towards the back. She's going to be watching flanks. She's going to be looking at drones, droning out for her teammates. Overall, she is an A tier operator that is very underappreciated. This is the part of the video where I go back and I look at where I place these operators and I try to make some revisions. Now, even though I just put them there, I think I have to knock down Yana and Nook. I forget how it's spelled. I always call her Nock, so that's probably not the way to say it. But putting them in B because I don't think they're on the same level as a Gridlock or a Nomad or a Capital. Like, I would rather see a Capital being played than either of these two operators. Even though they're great operators, I like them. Generally, I would rather see other operators played. Generally, I'd like to see maybe Doka be played more than them. But I'm not going to go ahead and dump them down to C tier because they're not C tier operators. But you get what I'm saying. Like, they don't provide enough utility to the team for me to want them in the A tier. They're great operators, but they're not good enough, in my opinion. Another change I need to make is moving Pulse into the S tier. Now, of all the operators, Pulse is like the best roamer to waste a minute and a half of the attacker's time. Because if you know there's a Pulse underneath sight, you have to clear him out before you even try to move into sight and even think about trying to get the plant down. And even though he has the UMP-45 and even though he's vulnerable with his cardiac sensor out, in a game that relies on information, having an operator that has wall hacks is insanely valuable. So he has to go in the S tier because of that. And so I think that's about it. I'm actually really happy with the way this list turned out, even though there may be some things you disagree with, like the Buck being down here in A tier, or Hibana being down here in A tier, or even Doc being down here in B tier. But I think overall this is one of my better lists, and I'm really happy the way it turned out. But the question is, do you agree? What about this list do you like? What about it do you not like? Let me know down below. I would love to hear from you guys. But anyways, that's about it for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit that like button because that helps me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And make sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you can be notified every time I post a video and help me get to that 20K mark. But thank you for sticking around to the end of the video. I am the Senator, and as always, have a good one.